And ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I am honored to be here with you on this week's, I should say this month's TV Courtroom. And the thing that I really love about, or will love about today's show, once we get situated, and we are situated at this point, is I want to talk to you about veganism. And in particular, I want to talk to you about Black veganism. You might say, well, why is this guy who does this TV courtroom show want to talk to us about Black veganism? Well, the answer is really, really simple. And here it is. I'm Black and I'm a vegan. So when I say it's simple, that's precisely what I mean. I have a great guest today, a brother by the name of Nathaniel Lee. We call him Brother Nate Lee. And he and I are going to talk to you today about veganism in general and Black veganism in particular. A number of things I want to share with you. I'm going to make sure that we have everything perfectly situated. I want to show you some items I have. One of the items are here. We'll get to those in just a couple seconds. I want to talk to you about items like this. We'll get to that in just a second. I want to talk to you about a number of issues that pertain to vegans in general and Black vegans in particular. I think the best way to start is to kind of give you a roadmap of what we're talking about and why we're talking about it. And it's very, very simple. We're talking about Black veganism. And there's an article I wrote in the Philadelphia Tribune. And if you go back to January 14, 2022, January 14, 2022, in the Philadelphia Tribune, you might say, well, okay, there's a lot of columns there. Where can I find it? Great question. Here's the answer. Go to phillytrib.com, and our producer extraordinaire has put that up on the screen, phillytrib.com. And once you get to that website, type in CORD, COARD, vegan. phillytrib.com, get to the website, type in CORD, COARD, and vegan. And once you type CORD, COARD, and vegan, VEGAN, in the search box, the article from January 14 of 2022 will come up. And if folks have trouble accessing it, don't worry about it. I want to get it to you, and I'll get it to you. Here's how I'll get it to you. One, you can email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. That's Michael, Michael, Cord, COARD, the letter X. You see Brother Malcolm X behind me. michaelcordx@gmail.com and say, hey, Mike, I wasn't able to get that article from the Tribune. Can you email it to me? And I'd be happy to. So the first way to get it, go to phillytrib.com. That's phillytrib.com. Type in CORD, COARD. Type in vegan, VEGAN. And my January 14, 2022 article will come up. That's the first way, the best way, the easiest way. If you have any trouble, don't worry about it. Email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. We have such thorough producers here at TV Courtroom right there on the screen. michaelcordx@gmail.com and say, hey, Mike, I need to get that article. Say no more. I'll get it to you. So first way, Tribune website. Second way, email me. Third way, go to my social media pages, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Go back to January 14 of 2022, and you'll see the article from the Tribune on my social media page. That's the third way of doing it. And the fourth and final way, if all else fails, I'm a part of an organization called ATTAC, ATAC, Avenging the Ancestors Coalition. And in connection with that organization, ATTAC, ATAC, we provide assistance on almost any activist type endeavor. So call me at that number, 215-552-8751. That's ATTAC, ATAC, Avenging the Ancestors Coalition. Call me at 215-552-8751. 8751. I say call me, but really call the organization. Somebody will get back to you. And when you call that number, 215-552-8751, simply say, hey, Mike, I need a copy of that article about veganism from the Philadelphia Tribune back on January 14, 2022, and I'll get it to you. You might say, well, why is he making such a big deal about this whole veganism thing? The answer is very simple. I love life. When I say I love life, I love all living creatures. Can't say I love all human beings because obviously we have some horrific human beings, but when it comes to so-called animals, we're all animals, but there's so-called animals that we think about when we think about dogs and cats and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, that kind of thing. When we think about them, I include them in life. And there are no evil animals. There are no sadistic animals. There are no brutal animals. Now you might say, well, don't they kill each other in the jungle, in the woods and all that? The answer is yes, but they don't murder each other. In other words, just kill for the joy of killing. What they do is part of life and death in order to survive in the jungle. You might say, well, if that's true about animals, it's true about humans. No, it's not, because humans have a degree of quote unquote intellect that animals, so-called lower animals, don't have. And what I mean by that, we have the choice of brutalizing a lamb in order to get some quote unquote delicious lamb chops, but we don't have to. Why? Because there are so many other options involved that don't require terrorizing and traumatizing and murdering animals. When you see in the jungle, in the woods, animals attacking each other and killing each other, that's their only option. They do what they have to do to survive. If they had an option to go to a vegan restaurant and eat delicious food without slaughtering each other, they'd be inclined to do it. Why? Because like I said, when you talk about sadistic, evil, wicked, horrible, vicious, living creatures, you're talking about humans. Humans have killed more species, including themselves and other animals, than any other animal. You might think, well, what about the great white shark? What about the killer whales? When's the last time you noticed a quote unquote killer whale or a great white shark knocking on your door? You open the door and they bash you in the head and take your money. No, they don't do that. And the fact that we call them killer whales, we ought to call ourselves killer humans, because, and this is a fact, human beings kill more living creatures than any other individual living creature in the history of humankind. We kill more than any. When I say kill, I'm talking about killing in the sense of unnecessary, unjustified homicide. Unjustified, unnecessary killing. That's what we do. You feel like you're hungry, you go eat a burger. And that burger wasn't just created out of nothing. That was a cow. That was a calf, part of a family. And when we talk about animals, in about 7 minutes, we're going to have our guest up. But give me a few more minutes before we turn to our guest, and I want to get his input about this. So here's the thing. You would never consider slaughtering your kitten. You would never consider slaughtering your puppy to eat a kitten burger, to eat a puppy burger. But you do it with cows, you do it with chickens, you do it with lamb, you do it with fish. And I want to be clear, I'm not necessarily judging people. This show is designed to enlighten people. And if you decide after listening to it, if you decide after reading my article that you don't want to go vegan, then that's your choice. But I believe that once most people get good information, they will act accordingly. Most people, not all. Some, you can give them all the information in the world and they won't take it. But I think most people, once you give them information, good information, enlightening information that they didn't know about before, I think most people will be inclined to accept and run with that information. So that's why it's so important to me. When I talked about the kittens, when I talked about the puppies, I mentioned them because they are sentient creatures like you and I. We feel pain, we undergo trauma, we go through depression. All those feelings, all those sensations we as humans have, kittens have, puppies have, but it doesn't stop there. Chickens have it, pigs have it, fish have it, lamb have it. So if you wouldn't do it to your kitten, if you wouldn't do it to your puppy, why would you do it to a cow or a chicken or a pig, especially if you don't have to? Do you know that there are some countries, primarily, but not exclusively, primarily in Asia, they eat dogs? You might think that that's outrageous to eat a dog. Well, people in India would think it's outrageous to eat a cow. Either way, that same fear, that same trauma, that same depression, that same pain that your puppy feels, that your kitten feels, that your son, your daughter, your brother or sister, your mother, your father, you feel that same pain. If I took this pen and jabbed it in my hand, I would feel excruciating pain. A kitten would feel the same pain. A puppy would feel the same pain. A pig, a chicken, a turkey, a cow would feel that same pain. Why would you do that if you don't have to? There's got to be something psychotic and sadistic. And I think one of the reasons why most people are not vegan is because the suffering, the pain, the trauma, the blood, the brutality is distant. Paul McCartney, the great Paul McCartney, the Beatles, made an excellent point. He said that if slaughterhouses had glass walls, everybody would be a vegan. Let me repeat that. Paul McCartney had a great quote where he said if slaughterhouses, those facilities where they butcher animals, if they had glass walls where you could see in, everybody would be a vegan. Now, there's two reasons to become a vegan. One, and this is how I started, for health reasons. You don't want to put garbage in your body. In fact, as they say, you are what you eat. So if that pig is eating garbage and slop that the farmer is giving to it, and then you eat that very same pig, you're eating what the pig ate, or the chicken ate, or whatever else on these so-called farms. So you are what you eat. In regard to health, that's a great reason to become a vegan. The other reason to become a vegan, and that's why I did it primarily, even though I started for health reasons, but now that I know the pain of these sentient creatures, if I'm not willing to cut the throat of that cow after transporting it for 50 or 100 miles, crammed into a dark, cold truck, if I'm not willing to transport that cow in that horrific manner, if I'm not willing to slash the throat of that cow, then I shouldn't be willing to eat it. 99.9% of the meat eaters, flesh eaters, fish eaters, 99.9% of it, if they had to kill the animal to eat it, they wouldn't. To look into that animal's eye and then slaughter it. Let me quickly do this before we get our guest in 1 minute. In this article in the Philadelphia Tribune, again, go to it, fullytrib.com, type in cord vegan. It's from January 14, 2022. In that article, I presented some great arguments, 10 great arguments about why folks should at least consider veganism. I'm going to fly through them right now, and then in less than 60 seconds, when I get to our guest, Nathaniel Lee. Number one, a vegan has hundreds of absolutely delicious food, dessert, and snack choices while at the same time promoting Black businesses. I got a list of Black vegan restaurants in Philly that help you to get healthy help you to protect animals, and help you to promote Black businesses. I'm going to go through some of them. That's number one. Number two, trust the science. Science tells you why being a vegan is much better for you than being a carnivore. That's number two. Number three, save your heart. I go into some great studies, for example, by the American Heart Association that promotes veganism. Number four, save the environment. That's a major reason. Number five, save and lengthen your life. I'm going to talk to you about the Lancet, which is a weekly peer-reviewed general medical journal founded way back in 1823. What do they say about saving and lengthening your life? That's number five. Number six, you can lose weight much quicker and easier if that's your thing. Fortunately, I've been blessed on my mother's side. Everybody on my mom's side is tall and skinny. Everybody on my father's side is short and round. I'm glad I got the mom genes. But whatever the situation is, if you suffer from weight gain problems, veganism is the answer. Number seven, veganism is becoming the intelligently popular thing to do. I got to tell you about Rush University System for Health and what they pointed out regarding that. Number eight, vegan options are easy to find at many of the fast food restaurants. Number nine, a proper vegan diet is high in protein. I got to tell you, my head almost explodes when meat eaters say, well, what about the protein? I'm like, what about the garbage you eat at McDonald's? Why all of a sudden you're so concerned about protein, eating that sloppy ham sandwich as soon as the whole issue of veganism comes in? So that's the first thing I want to say to them, shut the F up. But after I say that to them, I say, okay, now that I told you to shut the F up, let's have that debate about protein. Protein from meat relative to protein available from nuts and starches and seitan and tofu. And then finally, number 10. You can look good on the outside by dressing stylishly without blood on your hands or anywhere else on your body. I'm going to show you some stuff later in the show, some fly and stylish shoes that I wear to court. Fly and stylish shoes that I wear in court. Fly and stylish, for example, Louis Vuitton belt, all that kind of stuff. You know what? It's all vegan. The belt I have on right now, matter of fact, let me take this belt off right now. This is a vegan belt. Michael Kors, one of the greatest names in style and fashion right here. There's the MK right there if you don't believe me. I'm going to talk to you about all of this stuff about veganism. But the main thing I want to say is this. If you wouldn't do it to your dog or cat, if you wouldn't do it to your puppy or kitten, why would you do it to a cow or a pig or a chicken, especially since you don't have to do it? Having said that, we're going to go straight to our guest of the day, my good friend, Nathaniel Lee. And I've always liked Nathaniel Lee because he's a lover of dogs. And he and I connect on social media in connection with his dogs. And I then found out that he was a vegan. And I'm like, intelligent brother who loves his animals, and not just his animals, but loves all animals. So we want to talk to him about why he became a vegan and how he deals with his family and his community, the Black community in particular, that doesn't seem to want to embrace veganism. So in just a couple seconds, in fact, perfect timing, we have Brother Nate. Before we get to Nate, let me just say a couple things. One, get that article I wrote in the Tribune with those 10 questions and those 10 great answers. In addition, as I told Nate and a few others on social media, I'm starting a group called Black Philly Vegans. Black Philly Vegans, where we get together and talk about this kind of stuff. And if anybody's interested in a member of Black Philly Vegans, email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. That's Michael Cord, MichaelCoard, the letter X as in Malcolm X. michaelcordx@gmail.com and say, yo, Mike, I want to become a member of Black Philly Vegans. Now we can get back to Brother Nate Lee. I want to again thank the producer for having Nate right available on cue. Nate, how are you today?
I am well, Brother Mike. Michael X, greetings to you and all of your viewers.
In fact, before we get into the substance of veganism, why you became a vegan, how you deal with your family around the holidays and Thanksgiving, let's talk about you for about 60 seconds. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you do.
Well, Mike, I am a writer. I am an author. I'm the author of 2 books, a third coming out within the next 2 weeks. Basically a journalist. Most of the people know me from journalism covering features in the Black community. I've written for over a decade for Philadelphia Tribune, the West Side Weekly, some articles in the Metro, and go on and on and on. And I specialize in telling the stories of our people from a perspective that most mainstream media outlets would not. So more empowering story. And I acquired the nickname Front Page Nate because I had most of my stories, and I always thought it was a fluke. For years, I suffered from imposter syndrome. Most of my stories tended to make it on the front pages of these publications, and which kind of killed that notion that if it bleeds, it leads, and people don't want to hear good news. So that kind of killed that, and it was always my motivation as a journalist and as a writer to show more empowering things and more uplifting things about our people.
I also understand, Nate, that you have a popular segment, a popular show, hosting and guest hosting on a local big time radio station. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. We just crossed our 4th year on a segment which we call Tell Me Something Good. And for the same reason, we present people doing positive and empowering things in the community. They provide resources and services that our people need, and we highlight them. And every first and third Friday on WURD Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM. And so it's been an honor doing this. The people have really gravitated towards it. Once again, killing the mistaken notion that people don't want to hear good news.
And speaking of good news, I hear WRD running a segment for one of your shows where you talk about how when you're young, you think you know everything, but you really don't know everything. And that resonated so well with the audience. WRD runs that like every day, it seems every hour. Was that spontaneous by you, or was that a planned segment?
That was actually spontaneous. I was at the Word event, and Josh Asay, she was there with Love Now Media, and we did it on the spot. She was just asking me to say a few words to the younger generation, and that was my response. It wasn't
just
planned.
Tell us, for those who didn't hear it, tell us in about 30 seconds what you said.
Well, I've told the our youth, that, one of the mistaken notions that youth tend to have, as I had, my mother had, my grandparents had, we all thought that we had forever. When you're young, you feel as if you're immortal. And I basically let them know that not only is it not true, but one day you'll be 90 years old wondering where the time went. So make wise decisions now, because the time is like a shadow and you'll be looking back.
Very well said. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to you for the next, 15, 20 minutes or so. What's this big deal about veganism? Why is it that you and I and people like us, why are we accused of trying to force it down other people's throat? What do you do during Thanksgiving and holidays with your family and friends? Talk to us about the life of a vegan, starting out with why and when you decided to do it.
Well, I started out as a vegetarian, and
so did I, the whole cheese and ice cream thing. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to say this, for me to even be a vegetarian, much less a vegan, is incredibly surprising. You would not expect it, because I was a meat and potatoes man who did not like potatoes. Everything on my plate was meat all of my life.
And Nate, before you go on, just enlighten people, what's the difference between a vegan and a vegetarian?
Absolutely. Now, a vegetarian will not eat meat per se, but they will eat dairy. They will eat animal products like dairy, cheese, things like that. A vegan not only does not eat meat, but will not eat anything that's derived from animals. So we will not only not eat the meat, we won't eat dairy, we won't eat cheese, or those type of substances that came from animals.
Excellent. All right. So tell us why you did what you did and what the benefits are.
Well, actually, I am an animal lover. I'm a lover of the planet. I'm a lover of nature. If you go on my Facebook page, my social media pages, I'm always out in the woods. I'm always camping. You can see my hoodie now with the camouflage on. And I'm just a lover of nature and animals, and it doesn't matter the type of animal, it doesn't matter the type of insect. And the reason that I finally made the jump, I consumed so much red meat, but I was able to have this cognitive dissonance where I separated
Mm,
what I ate with what I was with the slaughter and murder that was
mm,
associated with it. And then it was you actually and Sister Seal Keller who said something, posted something on social media about 4 or 5 years ago, and it went something like this, and I'm paraphrasing. It said, "How can you say you love animals and then eat them?" or something to that
mm.
effect. And
Yes.
I read that, and it's nothing that I haven't heard before. And I guess it was because it was from you and her,
Hmm.
and I guess it gravitated toward me. But it made me stop and literally think. And I said, I'm going to try vegetarianism. And I did it. And I started out like I always start. If I quit something, I got my last period of
Yes,
eating. So I ate
yes,
the hoagies, I
yes,
ate the hot sausages and all that stuff. And
yes,
then
yes.
I gave myself a date and I cut it off. Never touched meat since. And then
Wow.
uh, I still had this. I was learning more as I went along the way, and I realized that dairy was still creating a hardship for animals. It was still causing harm and
Let me
hurt and
stop you there,
suffering.
Nate. When you say hardship, let me play the devil's advocate. What do
Mhm.
you mean hardship for animals? They're animals. What's the big deal? What's your response?
I would say that animals are sentient beings. They feel. If you look at, no one loves you more than an animal. If you have a dog or a cat or any type of so-called pet, I call them family. Some people call them pets, but they feel, they love, they have dreams, and so when you talk about hardships to animals, when you did it, you did a great job by way of example. When you said if you stick yourself in a hand with a pen, you're going to suffer. You're going to feel agony. Well, those animals feel the same thing, and
Same.
the
Yes.
same pain, and they suffer. I'm in Southwest Philadelphia right now, and there's a lot. I had to rescue 5 animals since being there. I'm visiting. Rescue 5 animals. Some of them I hear howling in the yard, dogs howling in the cold, and they are suffering. And so when I say hardship for animals, I mean literal hardship that we would, and I'm an empath. So when I hear
Yes.
or see suffering,
Yes.
I feel suffering. And so I have to act on it. The animals feel the same way. So that's what I mean by hardship on the animals.
Very well said. Please continue.
Mhm. And so I believe that our job is to reduce the harm, reduce the not just the carbon and footprint. Like we'll talk
Yes.
about the environment and et cetera. Well, what about the harm to animals and other living creatures that feel, that dream, that have emotions? And so I cannot justify having so many other options, so many other eating options. I can go. And plus, I believe we were originally vegan in the first place.
Hmm.
Those who come from who may use the Bible as
Hmm.
their frame of reference. Well, in the beginning, God said, "Of all of these trees you may eat." He didn't
Mm.
say of all of these animals. He said of all of these trees thou mayest eat, and he made an exception, except this one here. and
Mm.
and and so
Mm.
meat didn't come until much later, and I believe that yeah, we can we can digest meat. We can, and as you can see, meat causes a great deal of harm as well.
Hmm.
Yes, we could eat it, but I don't think it was the original design for us to eat meat. And so I think it's as thinking creatures, as feeling creatures, I think our role should be how can we eradicate suffering.
I love it. I love it. How can we eradicate suffering? I got 10 points in my Tribune article. I'm just going to quickly go through them and I want you to comment on them and
Absolutely.
what you think about them. But before we do that, Nate, and by the way, we have Nathaniel Lee, who is a local writer, Front Page Nate, and a host at WURD. Nate, before we go through these 10 points, if folks want to follow you on social media, how do they do that?
On Facebook, I'm Nathaniel Lee. On Instagram, I'm at Front Page Nate. And you're going to see some of the most beautiful nature pictures imaginable. My website is www.frontpagenate.com. That's frontpagenate.com. So you can always find me in any of those ways. You can DM me and we can have a dialogue. I'm open to everyone.
Sounds great. And I know you probably, before I go through my 10 points, you want to give a shout out to your family members. People might call them pets, but you and I call them family members. So go ahead if you want to. Before you do that, big shout out to Rhythm and Blues. Rhythm is a Cavapoo, 2.5 years old, and Blues is a Cockapoo, also 2.5 years old. I consider my children not pets, but part of the family. You can give your shout out.
Absolutely, and I give a shout out to my cat Cinnamon. Cinnamon was a rescue animal. All of my family, my
Excellent.
fur family,
Excellent.
were rescue animals. Cinnamon was a little kitten that was found freezing, starved, so small you could fit in the palm of your hands, but freezing. And I went to let my dog out, who I'll shout out in a second, to go to the bathroom, and the kitten ran in. And
Whoa.
it was cold and the snow was on the ground and it was so small. And so, but I didn't take Cinnamon in at first because I thought the mother would come to find her, would be looking for her, and maybe she got astray. So I left her out there, and left him out there so the mother could find him. The next day it was the same thing. I opened the door, and Cinnamon ran inside the house, and I took him in because I couldn't let him freeze out there. My cat Friday passed last year. Friday was sort of like Cinnamon, and of course, yes, in Southwest Philadelphia as well. And Friday passed. Always had problems, health problems, because he was removed from his parents too early. And I had to wean Friday. I had to come and actually feed him with a little
Wow.
yeah. And so I had to go home 2-3 times a day, wherever I was doing, to make sure that I fed
Wow.
Friday. And my dog Muppet was a stray, and so Muppet stayed with me. I had him about 8 years. He's a terrier mixed. I'm not sure of his age, but he's been with me 8.5 years now. And yeah, that's my little buddy.
I got to tell you, Nate, I've always respected you and appreciated you no more than right now, hearing the story of Cinnamon and also Muppet. Those who just tuned in, you're checking out TV Courtroom, hosted by yours truly, attorney Michael Cord, aka Michael X, along with his guest of the day, brother Nate Lee, also known as Front Page Nate. He's all about eradicating suffering, and you can follow him on social media at Nathaniel Lee, at Front Page Nate, or his website, frontpagenate.com. And you can hear him frequently on WURD 96.1 FM, WURD 900 AM. Having said that, as I reached out to Nate early this week and a few others, I'm starting a group called Black Philly Vegans. And pretty much it's an organization not yet formed, but in the process of forming. So if anybody's interested in getting in on the ground floor, email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com. Our producer extraordinaire, our technical director, Riley, got the information up there once again, michaelcordx@gmail.com. Just say, hey, I want to know more about Black Philly Vegans, and we'll get back to you. Having said that, Nate, let me just go through in this article. Here's what I write. And even before that, let me just read to people what I posted on social media about a year ago. It was Thanksgiving of 2022. And I posted a photo of a kitten, of a puppy, and of a chick. And here's what I wrote. As a vegan, I don't expect to convert anyone before Thanksgiving, but I do hope those who plan to eat turkeys on that day think about this. Just as dogs/puppies and cats/kittens feel pain, undergo trauma, experience fear, grieve separation, and mourn loss, so do turkeys pulse. They all are sentient creatures. And I just want to put that in the heads and minds of people to say that if you wouldn't do it to your kitten, if you wouldn't do it to your puppy, why would you do it to a cow, a chicken, a turkey, fish, or anything else? Having said that, let me go through in this article I wrote. I said at the outset, I must concede that all people, including Black people, obviously have the right to eat whatever they want. But because I love Black people so much, I want them to live long and healthy lives. And I love animals so much. And because of that, I want them to also live healthy and long lives. By the way, when I say animals, I mean sentient creatures. And when I say sentient creatures, I mean humans, dogs, cats, chickens, cows, pigs, fish, and all the species that objectively and provably feel pain, undergo trauma, experience fear, grieve separation, and mourn loss. And don't get me started about, well, don't plants feel pain? First of all, I'll tell you to shut the F up because that's not a legitimate question. You don't care whether plants feel pain. That's just some nonsense you're throwing out there. That's the first thing. So as I said, shut the F up. But after I curse your dumb A out for asking something like that, then we'll get to it. No, they don't feel pain because they don't have a nervous system. And because they don't have a nervous system, they can't feel pain. That's a scientific answer, but it's irrelevant to the BS question you pose because you got that sloppy ham sandwich juice coming down your mouth, and then you're going to ask me about a damn plant. So I'm not going for the BS. Having said that, here's what I write. Many people confuse veganism, and Nate talked about this. Many people confuse veganism with vegetarianism, but they are definitely not the same. While vegetarians do not eat any type of flesh, they do eat dairy products and a few of the animal byproducts. But vegans do not eat any type of flesh or any type of animal byproducts. Having said that, allow me to present those 10 persuasive arguments, and I'm going to have Nate respond to each of them. Number one, a vegan has hundreds of absolutely delicious food, dessert, and snack choices while at the same time promoting Black businesses. Check out the impressive Black-owned and operated vegan restaurants such as Supreme Oasis Bakery in Delhi. You can get more information by going to So Bad Philly. That's SOBAD Philly.net. Anything that you think you like to eat in terms of flesh, they can make it for you in a vegan option. And if you didn't know any better, you would think it is that ham sandwich or that turkey sandwich. That's Supreme Oasis Bakery and Deli, all types of vegan dishes, including desserts. Go to SoBadPhilly.net or call 215-452-5146. That's 215-452-5146. And I got others. Nate, what's your response to the options that vegans have?
I already said that prior to becoming a vegan, that I was just a pure carnivore. And when I say almost a pure carnivore, let me tell you something. Meat was my primary diet, period. But since
how long in your life? Teenage?
Ever since I was able to eat solid food, I was a meat eater. My mother used to sit and watch me eat as a young child, and she would have to make sure I ate everything. And she would tell her friends on the phone, if I didn't watch him, he would eat nothing but meat. I have to make him eat vegetables. And I was that way all my life. But let me say this: loving meat the way I did, as a vegan, I can honestly say, I can find options of plant-based options so that I don't sit around jonesing for meat. You know, in the beginning, it was only solids. I didn't know anything about veganism or vegetarianism. So my knowledge was what limited my sources. Now that I know more, you mentioned seitan. I can make hot dogs. I can make hot sausages. I can make chicken. I make a tuna fish salad out of chickpeas. You won't know the difference. Trust me. We don't miss the meat. We miss the seasoning and the texture, and all of that can be provided for in a plant-based healthy diet free of suffering.
I love the way you broke that down. In fact, as you see behind me, I have the great Malcolm X, and he has this saying, which is, and this is what I live by, it's make it plain. So no matter what you're talking about, if I'm talking about law, if a doctor is talking about medicine, if Nate Lee is talking about veganism, make it plain in a way that people can understand it. And Nate, you did just that. Nate covered number one. Let's go. And by the way, Nate's mantra, and I'm going to steal it, I'm going to plagiarize it, is he does his veganism thing because he wants to, quote, eradicate suffering. That's the perfect way of framing it. And Nate, I wish you hadn't said that publicly. I wish you had told me that privately. I would have taken his mind and then run with it, because that's so concise. Eradicate suffering. If you wouldn't do it to your kitten or puppy, why would you do it to a cow or a fish or a chicken? They all feel the same pain. Having said that, number two, trust the science. The American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and the British Dietetic Association, as reported at vegansociety.com, recognize that well-planned vegan diets are, quote, suitable for every age and stage of life. Some research has linked vegan diets with lower blood pressure and lower cholesterol, lower rates of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and some types of cancer. What do you want to say, Nate, about the science?
I can say this, wherever you go, and this is without argument, this cannot be disputed. Wherever there are communities or societies where people eat less meat, more vegetables, more plant-based diets, there's lower incidence of cholesterol problems, lower incidence of hypertension, lower incidences of heart disease. It's obvious. You don't get cholesterol from plants. And protein. Well, you look at the biggest, most powerful creatures on the planet, elephants. Well, they're vegans. Gorillas, they're vegans.
Hold that, because I want you to expand upon that when we get to number 9.
Okay.
Many vegan haters of vegans say, well, what about the protein? We're going to talk about that number 9. I want you to make that point about elephants, and I'm sure you're going to include dinosaurs from way, way back.
Absolutely.
We'll get into all of that. Hold that thought on protein, because I want you to expand upon that. Nate so far covered 1, covered 2. Let's go to 3, and he touched on that. Number 3, save your heart. A 2017 study from the American Heart Association found that those who ate mostly plant-based, i.e. vegan diet, had a 42% decreased rate of developing heart failure. What do you want to say about that, Nate?
If you give up meat for and meat products, not just meat, because if you stop meat and then you drink the dairy with all of the fat and the casein, which is a chemical we shouldn't have in our bodies, but more into that later. And then you give it up and you eat plant-based. Give it 60 to 90 days, go back to your doctor for a blood test and et cetera. The odds are you're going to see a significant improvement in your blood tests. You're going to see a significant improvement in your health. Your doctor's going to smile. That's why your doctors will often tell you, look, eat less fat. Well, fat comes from meat and dairy products. So there is no fat in plants.
You're listening to, you can either call him Brother Nate or you can call him Dr. Lee. Either way, he breaks it down for you. Number 4, and you touched on this, Nate, when you mentioned carbon footprint. Number 4, save the environment. As documented by vegansociety.com, quote, while the world's population has doubled since the 1960s, world meat production has quadrupled. In certain areas, livestock production has increased massively. There are now 4.5 times as many tons of pigs produced in 2013 compared to 1961, while world chicken production has increased by nearly 13 times. Then it goes into the effect on the environment. I'd like you to expand upon that, Nate.
A lot of the carbon emissions, we used to talk a lot about the ozone layer. Now we're talking a lot about climate change. Well, we don't talk about the fact that a lot of that can be reduced simply by not producing, not eating meat, and all of the things that go into the production of meat, all of the carbon dioxide, all of the other things that goes into manufacture the meat-based industry. You give that up, carbon emissions are automatically reduced, land use automatically reduced, water pollution automatically reduced, and we can go on and on. You eradicate that large consumption of meat and the meat industry, you can solve many of the climate problems, many of the environmental problems we face today.
I love the way you frame that. So it's not just about you as the individual, it's about the planet at large. And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Nate Lee breaking it down. Number 5, and you touched on this, if you want to add something, you can. Number 5. In 2018, the Lancet, which is a weekly peer-reviewed general medical journal founded way back in 1823, published a report concluding that, quote, those who consumed animal-based diets had a shorter life expectancy than those who ate plant-based, i.e. vegan sources of protein and fat. In fact, there was nearly a 20% decrease in the risk of death. You want to add to that, Nate?
Absolutely. You know, when you're taking in fruits, vegetables, healthy, I don't even have to modify by saying healthy, legumes, those type of things, because they're all healthy.
Yes, sir.
You've never heard a doctor say, eat less vegetables. You've never heard a doctor say, eat less plants, or I'm sorry, look, you're too big. I want you to cut down your consumption of vegan foods. Well, provided that they're natural vegan foods. There's some junk food out there you don't want.
Yes,
But
yes, yes.
plant-based, you're never going to hear your doctor say that, but you will hear a doctor say, I need you to cut down on your cholesterol, which is found in meat. I need you to cut down on your fat, which is found in meat and milk and other products. So all of those things that your doctor are likely to tell you to cut down on are never found in plants, unless you have some type of allergy, and that's a rare thing. But they're never found in plants. They're always found in meat products. And there's a reason for that. Because our body does not, I believe personally, our bodies weren't intended to digest them, and therefore it has a negative effect on us, period.
Very well said. Nate Lee breaking it down to us. Number 6, you can lose weight much quicker and easier. Healthline.com notes that, quote, vegan diets are known to help people lose weight, unquote. And ScienceDirect.com points out that, quote, vegan diets are more effective for weight loss than other diets, unquote. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Nate, before you came on, in my family, everybody on my mother's side is tall and skinny. Everybody on my father's side is short and round. So it's a genetic thing for me. I could eat, before I became a vegan, 10 gallons of ice cream a day and wouldn't gain an ounce. On my father's side, if they look at a piece of cake, they'll gain 3 pounds. Nate, talk about the weight loss part.
One thing about getting, some people talk about lean protein. Well, as a vegan, it's all lean protein. You want to build muscle, you want to build mass, you want to build, there are bodybuilders, but people used to believe that you couldn't eat healthy on a vegan diet. We know better now. If you want to lose weight, one of the quickest ways to lose weight, of course, you still have to exercise. You still have to have a healthy lifestyle. But I can guarantee you a lot of the fat and the calories that come from meat and meat products will be significantly harder to work off than the caloric intake of fruits and vegetables.
I got to tell you, Nate, I know from following you on social media that you know your stuff when it comes to veganism, but I didn't know you really, really, really knew your stuff. And I'm impressed. And I'm not too impressed with people, but I'm impressed with your knowledge and how you just explain it so clearly. Let's now jump to number 7. Veganism is becoming the intelligently popular thing to do. Rush University System for Health reports that, quote, each day more people are embracing a vegan or plant-based diet, unquote. Also, according to a 2019 article in The Economist, 25% of 25 to 34-year-old Americans say that they are vegans or vegetarians. Moreover, the chef's pencil, which is described as a valuable resource for professional chef recipe, states that, quote, interest in veganism hit an all-time high in 2020. What are you seeing and hearing in regard to folks leaving the dark side and coming to the light side?
I'm hearing that Black folk are the fastest, the quickest rising number of vegans and vegetarians in the nation.
I never knew that.
Absolutely. We are the fastest growing segment of vegetarians and vegans in the nation. And I think we're becoming more health conscious. Take soul food, for example. And I'm not knocking anybody because I used to eat soul food like crazy. But I tease my parents. I say they call it soul food because after you eat it, your spirit goes to God.
I love it. I love it.
You after you eat soul food, your soul belongs to God. You're gone.
And Nate, I mean, that's a nice quip, but it's also true.
Absolutely.
It's also true. Literally, all that cholesterol and that fat and that grease clogs your artery and you're dead. And we love what we call Big Mama, but Big Mama either is not going to be around a long time or she's going to lose a leg or an arm. Please continue.
Absolutely. But now you can have, and we mentioned this before, you can have all of those things in alternative ways that are healthy, and people, they can be just as delicious. Trust me.
In fact, Nate, just spend another 30 seconds expanding upon that, because people think a vegan diet is tasteless and boring, but you seem to be animated about that's just not true. Explain it.
Because I had to learn the hard way when I was a vegetarian for the first couple of years. All I knew was salads, and so it was
Mhm.
starting to get old to me. But as I started watching YouTube videos and
Mm.
joining groups of people who cook, they're vegans, and I started exploring in the kitchen. I don't even go to vegan restaurants a lot because now I'm having so much fun creating these delicious meals. You do not have to sacrifice taste and enjoyment to be a vegan. Trust me, it's not a lack of availability, it's a lack of imagination.
So that same taste that people go crazy about for, let's say, a ham hoagie or for a cheeseburger or for a chicken wing, you're telling me that you have a reasonable substitute in a vegan format?
I will make you a vegan fried chicken out of
Woo!
mushrooms that will and that's only one way. I can use seitan and some of the store-bought stuff may have a lot of sodium. You can make it yourself. It's a long process, but it will drive your taste buds crazy. You will be in love. So you don't have to sacrifice taste. There are ways to do it and be healthy.
We have as our guest today here in TV Courtroom, Nate Lee, who is breaking down to us the benefits of being a vegan. Nate is a well-known and popular journalist here in Philadelphia. He goes by the monitor. The public calls him Front Page Nate because many of his articles reach the front page. He's an author of 2 books, working on the third. He's a host at WRD. That's at WRD 96.1 FM, WRD 900 AM. He's all over social media, and he's here with us today, breaking down the benefits of a vegan life. Nate, you kind of touched on this, but in our final couple minutes, and I'll let you know we have a 1 minute, 2 minutes left so you can have your closing statement. But number 8 on my list. Vegan options are very easy to find. You just talked about making them yourself, but here's what I write. You can get them at KFC, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Arby's, Pizza Hut, Domino's Pizzas, Little Caesars, Nathan's Famous Hot Dog, Chipotle, Taco Bell, Subway, Five Guys, Qdoba, Chick-fil-A, White Castle, Hardee's, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, Dairy Queen, Haagen-Dazs, Ben & Jerry's, Baskin-Roberts, and many other places locally and nationwide. Talk about those options, Nate.
In my freezer right now is Ben and Jerry's fudge ice cream, non-dairy, and I am ready to tear it up. It's been sitting there a couple of days calling my name. In my refrigerator right now is some vegan macaroni and cheese, which I've made myself, calling my name right now. You can get almost every restaurant worth the name restaurant have a vegan variety, have a vegan selection that you can choose from. Many of them delicious. Now you might have to, and depending on where you live, some haven't caught on yet. But those who don't have vegan options are going out of business soon, or they're going to get vegan options. So it's not as hard to find now as it was, let's say 5-10 years ago. There is no excuse for not being able to find vegan alternatives. They are available and they are plentiful.
You know, you can tell that Nate Lee hosts a radio show not only because of his articulation and enunciation, but he gets right to the point and moves on. I love it. I don't have to cut him off, don't have to give him the signal. He just gets right in. Now we're at number 8. Nate, I'm going to jump to number 10 because I want you to come back to number 9 because I want you to close things out. It's now 4:23. I want to give you, let's say, the last 4 minutes. So let me jump to number 10, and then I'll ask you about number 9, and you'll wrap today's show up. Number 10, you can look good on the outside by dressing stylishly without blood on your hands or anywhere else in your body. And I got more I want to say about that, but go to my Tribune article. For example, people know I'm a lawyer, and these stylish shoes I wear to court. And you might say, well, these don't look like leather. Well, they don't look like leather because they're not leather. They're plastic. You're impressed with that, and I'm sure you are. There's more casual shoes. Look at these. Those were chocolate brown. These are navy blue loafers. I have another pair of loafers, and these are black. Stylish. I mean, unimaginably stylish. I got these black loafers. You might say that they are leather. No, they are plastic. There's several others. I got this really nice casual jacket. You might think that this is leather. It is not. But the best of all of my collection, I must say, is this. This is a black plastic Armani jacket. And you might think Armani makes vegan stylish. Well, there's the label right there. I bought it from Boyd's and I couldn't believe that Boyd's had, nobody knows that this is not leather. So you can look good on the outside and feel good on the inside. I just took off my Michael Kors vegan blue belt to match the suit I have on. You want more name brands? What about Louis Vuitton? A black Louis Vuitton vegan belt. There's also a place called Doshi, that's Doshi, that has any type of fake leather, stylish clothing that you could imagine. That's my brown one. Here is my black one. And for more information, if you really want some high-end, stylish, non-blood soaked clothing, belts and shoes and wristbands and watch bands and all that, you need to go to Wheels of London. Wheels of London is a company in London that has the best of the best when it comes to styling. Having said that, let's jump to number 9, and Nate will get the final 3 minutes. Here we go, Nate. Number 9, a proper vegan diet is high in protein. Spend a few seconds talking about that and then wrap things up in about 3 minutes as to why you think Black folks and all folks should become vegans. The 3-minute clock starts now.
I will say to the protein issue that protein come from plants, and I know that's not the way that we were taught, but if you look at it, the animals that you eat, you carnivores out there, eat the protein from the plants. You eat the animals, and therefore you get the protein. We can go the direct route and get the protein without killing the animals and causing the suffering, because originally the protein that we seek, the building blocks to our muscles and our bodies, they originally come from plants. You can get them in legumes, beans, some leafy green vegetables. Don't fall for the okie doke where people say if you become a vegan, you're going to become protein deficient. You don't have to be. That's a misnomer. That's a misunderstanding. You can get, so there are some major bodybuilders out there who don't eat meat. Gorillas don't eat meat. Elephants don't eat meat. None of us are as strong or as big as they are, but they don't eat meat. Why is that? What building blocks are they using? They're using proteins and they get all of the amino acids. Our bodies are a little different, but we can get everything we need from plants.
Wow. So, and again, Nate, I'm just impressed with how thorough you are. Give you the final 60 seconds. Anything you want to add, repeat, highlight, the final 60 seconds are yours. And thank you for joining us, but more important, thank you for enlightening us. The 60-second clock begins now.
I would like to say, first of all, thanks for having me. Anytime I could talk about this subject, I'm pleased to talk about this subject, because I believe we can eradicate suffering. We can enjoy our meals. We can have fun eating and still go to family gatherings and etc. and not miss anything except the suffering. We can get rid of the killing of animals. We can get rid of, just think of it. If God created all of the things in the universe, why are we going around eradicating the things he created just for mere pleasure? Let's stop eradicating the creations of God and start living the way he intended us to be, enhancing the planet and not defacing it.
Well said. More important, Nate, well done. For those who don't know, Nate Lee will be joining me based on his schedule at least once a week on the radio Courtroom, WRD 96.1 FM, WRD 900 AM, to talk about these type of issues. In our final few seconds, I want people to find out more about this organization, Black Philly Vegans. Email me at michaelcordx@gmail.com or call me at 215-552-8751. Nate, I've had many guests on many shows here. No disrespect to them, but this was by far the best one. I truly enjoyed it. You made this an overwhelming success. And folks, we got to run. I want to thank our technical director, Riley, who did a great job putting this show together. And I'm going to end today's show like I end every show. It goes like this. Think Black. I'm out.